So today we are discussing about the aerobic and the anaerobic bacteria. Okay, if we talk about the aerobic and anaerobic bacteria, so today we are getting the differentiate, and this is the aerobic and this is the anaerobic. Okay, so aerobic bacteria is basically require the oxygenic environment. Okay, oxygenic environment. They basically require the oxygenic environment. If we talk about the anaerobic, so they basically require the oxygen free environment, which means that if there is no oxygen they can live. Okay, and they basically live where the oxygen is present, and they basically live where the oxygen is absent. Okay, so they basically produce more energy because they get oxidized, and they basically produce less energy because they don't get oxidized because of the absence of the oxygen. Okay, if we talk about the aerobic bacteria, they basically produce the carbon dioxide and H2O. And if we talk about the anaerobic, so they basically produce carbon dioxide, ethanol and lactic acid. Okay, we have done with the ethanol fermentation, lactic acid fermentation, so there is no need to go in very detail with the cycles, because with the cycles we are already done with. If we talk about the example, so the example of the aerobic bacteria, let me give you, that is the myobacterium. Okay, that is the example of the aerobic bacteria. Yeah, one more thing I want to tell you guys is that if we talk about where they live, so their habitat is soil and the open surface area where the oxygen is there, open surface area. And if you talk about there, so they basically live in the, you can say that habitats, their habitats are basically marshes. Okay, marshes like intestine, spontine, etc. Okay, they are marshes. We basically live where the open surface area is not there. They are basically live in the open surface area. And if we talk about the example you have given, I have given the myobacterium. If you talk about this one, so I'm giving you the example of the E. coli. This is basically the, you can say that the bacteria. Okay, anaerobic bacteria that is basically present in the small intestine, which work for the digestion. Okay, yeah, one more example I'm having, that is the clostridium. This is also the anaerobic bacteria example. If we talk about the anaerobes, okay, anaerobes basically divided into the obligate anaerobe, and we are having that is the facultative anaerobes. What does it mean? Which means that these obligate are basically the anaerobic, which basically live in the absence of oxygen. And if you talk about the facultative, so they, for example, you can take the example of the lactobacillus. Okay, that is the anaerobic bacteria, which is in the work in the yogurt. Okay, milk to convert yogurt. They are basically the bacteria which is used, which is basically present in the milk. So these are the aerobic. Facultative are the aerobic bacteria, which basically live in the absence of oxygen. Okay, and for example, if they are getting oxygen, so they can also survive. Okay, but the nature of there is the absence of oxygen. Okay, so this is the aerobic one. Okay, they require the oxygen. And if you talk about this, so they do not require the oxygen. They live in the absence of oxygen, and they live in the, you can say that, in the presence of oxygen. That is aerobic. So that we are calling as a facultative, and they are obligate, which do not get the oxygen. They basically live in the absence of oxygen. So this was the little bit introduction about the aerobic and the anaerobic bacteria. Okay, in the next video we will discuss about the cyanobacteria and their structure and these all.